Hi guys, I'm Ethan Propp with Propp Cattle Company, coming to you from Adair, Oklahoma, here in the northeastern part of the state. And first and foremost, I want to say thank you to Jerry Mullins for asking me to be a part of this virtual show for these steers and these heifers. And thank you to everybody else involved in making this a reality. I don't know all of you by name, but I want to commend you guys on taking the initiative to host the show via YouTube and online. So that we can make the most of this situation for our students. I think, who knows how long we're going to have to do this, so thank you guys for allowing me to be a part of it, and I look forward to continuing to work with you guys in the future. I lived in Florida and worked for the university for a year, and I really enjoyed my time while I was there working with you guys and others throughout the state. So. With that, I'll offer some thoughts on the cattle. I thought those steers looked really good, and obviously I would have preferred to have seen them live and in person to kind of validate my opinions of what I saw. But I think the first trio of Charolais influenced steers I think are awfully tough and offer some give and take. I landed on that fifth widest colored steer to lead off with. I just think that guy is the most complete. A steer that from the side offers some balance and definitely doesn't give up anything from a muscularity standpoint. He's really stout out of his upper hip and has plenty of dimension there in his quarter and stifle. You view the cattle from behind and you got to appreciate that guy for the squareness that he has from the upper part of his hip down through his hock and into his lower pastern there from behind. After that from the side, he wants to get off in his top line just a little bit. But that doesn't concern me as much when we pull the steer to lead. He kind of comes together and that top line becomes a little more neutral, and you appreciate the length of neck. Nice steer to start off with. The next two steers I think are awfully close, and I elected to go with the number 112 steer, the smokier colored calf there. Just one that you can't avoid, and from a muscle standpoint. You step behind the cattle and that steer is probably the biggest hipped of all five in this lineup. Really wide at the ground, really opened up in his center body. Just an easy feeding, moderate frame type of steer that, comparatively just can't match the balance and look of the steer we led off with, or the steer that's going to stand third today. That smoky colored 112 steer just is a little coarser about his head and on the top side of his neck. I'm going to lay that steer in smoother into his shoulder as well, but definitely one you can appreciate from a muscle standpoint. The yellow steer, number 12, that's going to be third. A very good balanced calf from the side. Very strong in his top line, very correct structurally. We pull the cattle into motion. You can appreciate the length and athleticism he takes off of his rear leg. A steer to me that I think gives up some muscularity to the steer that's going to be second. That steer reads to be a little plainer in his muscle shape up high and out of his hip. And also he's a steer that, compared to our class winner, is a little plainer there in his head and neck. He's kind of a short face, short neck steer. They just want to elongate and make more attractive in that regard. But I think those first three steers are all nice calves and offer some good. I think there's a line there to be drawn between the Charolais cross calves and the black two steers that round out. The steer that's going to be fourth today, the number 81 steer, really an easy feeder. You can appreciate the body that steer's got in his forerib and flank. From his external indicators, that steer reads to be the fattest of all five, and if genetics permit, I'd expect that steer to be the safest grading. So you can appreciate that about him. After that steer is pretty coarse up front. He's very mature about his head and his neck, and he's the steer that's probably the straightest and coarsest in his shoulder. And I think if we pulled the cattle into motion, I think you would see that about that guy and the step that he takes out of his front end. So a steer for me that just needs to be better balanced, you can add some bone to, and probably add some cutability and muscle shape, to be honest with you. The steer that rounds out the other black calf, his tag number was number 1112F. He counters the faults of the steer that's fourth in terms of being better balanced and more attractive. That steer's longer necked, he's more youthful about his head and neck, he's smoother in his shoulder and stronger in his top line. But after that, this is a muscle-driven industry, and that steer is the lightest muscled in this lineup. The steer that's the thinnest in his finish and the shallowest in his flank. He wants to bow from hock to ground as well when you view the cattle from behind. So my placing of those calves would be number 5 first, the widest Charolais calf. Then number 3, the smoky colored steer, followed by number 4, the yellow steer, and then rounding out with number 1 and then number 2 on the 2 black steers. So those are my thoughts. Thank you for the opportunity to evaluate the steers, and best of luck on down the road with future projects. Thank you guys.